what is the night all about in your words?
Well, I guess it's about the history, of the legacy of players. I mean, I knew they had Jackie Robinson was yesterday, I believe. I mean, I don't keep up, but I saw players wearing number 42 once I realized today and how special, it is for a player of color to play Major League Baseball. I think the average player of color don't even know why they play. And when you look at Jackie Robinson and you look at some of the other greats like Frank Robinson, Hank Aaron, and you look at Willie Mays, you look at all these guys that played through the most difficult times, and they set the standard of real character and playing the game the right way. I think when you put on a uniform and you're a player of any color, you need to know the players that came through. Roberto Clemente, you need to know the guys that really came through and had to deal with more than we could ever imagine, playing this game of baseball. So when you think about nights like tonight, and I think about myself, playing, being African American and growing up in California and playing here in the big leagues in New York and surviving. What a place to be able to survive. Most people can't come here and survive, and I was, I was young and I was able to do that, and I enjoyed it. I enjoyed playing in a place like this. I love the passion, of fans and everything, and sometimes you take a lot of heat, but it's good because it makes you better. And I think that was really important for me. It made me better to be able to take and deal with some of the things I had to go through. Yes, Howie.
I'm waiting for a microphone. I don't work with that.
Okay.
Darryl, when you were coming up through the Met system, and there were some older former players around, like Al Jackson and Ed Charles, were there any stories that you heard from any of those or other players who played in the early days after integration that might have just kind of knocked you out when you heard about something specific that they went through that maybe we don't know or didn't hear all that much about?
Yeah, I think Al Jackson, he was a pitching coach in the organization, and what a wonderful man. He would tell you to enjoy every moment of it that you have, because of all that they had to endure, more than I probably could ever imagine. Some players like that, I can imagine what, Cleon Jones had to go through, being a, African American player and had to endure. We didn't have to endure like those guys did. We didn't have to endure like Frank Robinson and Jackie and Hank Aaron. You imagine, the story of Hank Aaron, saying when he was going for the home run, and what he had to go through, and the death threats, and we didn't have to go through that as players, So, when I spent time with Al Jackson, he would talk about them. He would say things that you could just only imagine of thinking to yourself, if you had to play in those times, what it would be like. You wouldn't be that kind of pressure on your expectation and the criticism that most of them had to go through, being the time of them playing. You can't never imagine it. You could just hear the stories about it, but you couldn't. Me personally, I couldn't. I could only imagine, but I couldn't really be in their situation and having to face that. I faced some real criticism when I played, of course, in Lynchburg, Virginia. I was called out of my name, boy, and this, you're not that good. And I was like 19 years old, and my manager, Gene Dusan, used to tell me, just don't look up there, and I was struggling that year, and I came close to quitting baseball, but he helped me get through that season because I think he figured if I'd have looked up there, up in the crowd where they were saying, calling me a boy and the N-word, I probably would have took my Louisville Slugger and went up there and eliminated somebody, But Gene Dusan kept me together. I am grateful for that. He kept me through that process about not looking up there and telling me how ignorant they were and everything. And he was white. He was a white manager. And he made it clear to me to just don't get involved. And I didn't. I'm very thankful to the fact that, I did have him as a manager to help me through that process, because I didn't understand that process, because I come from California, so we didn't have that kind of battle playing baseball together. We were all black players playing against other black players, so we never had that animosity or what is being said. But that was very challenging for me when I experienced that, and I got a taste of it, and I realized from there what it was really like.
And Gene was a coach with the club when you came up for your rookie year. What did he have an impact on you at the big league level at all that first year?
Chuck Hiller did. Chuck Hiller was a coach that I went through when I went through Kingsport, Tennessee. He kind of just embraced me. He knew what it was all about. You're in the middle of nowhere, and a lot of things are going to be said. And there were a lot of things being said at that time when I was coming through. So Chuck Hiller was he was the first coach that I encountered with as a father figure. And then it was Gene Dusan. He was more of like the real father figure for me from 1982 and 1981 and 82, Jackson, because he was my manager in Jackson. And had it not been for him putting a big brother to the side for me as I was going through this process, there's no telling what might have happened, because he kind of like put a big brother was Lloyd McClendon, who was more of like a big brother who was a little older, to help me, kind of walk through a lot of things, because a lot of things were being said because of, the actual color of my skin, to play baseball. And I never, thought that I would ever hear things said like I heard in Lynchburg, but I did. And I thought to myself, man, this is not what I signed up for. I could have went to Oklahoma State. I could have played basketball and baseball in college, but it worked out well, and I worked through it and I got a clear understanding of it and everything through that process with that year. So it made me a better person, I could tell you that.
Laura?
I think only about 6% of baseball players right now are black, and there are very few that are in front office positions or managerial positions. Do you think there's anything baseball can do to encourage more young black men to get into the sport, or what barriers do you think are available?
Well, I think they don't have enough. I put it more like playing fields for young kids in inner cities. They have academies everywhere else, but they don't have the attraction for what inner cities are all about. Because I grew up in the inner city, and that's where we played. Me and Eric Davis, Chris Brown, all of us come from the inner city. Inner city baseball was organized, and they had teams, and development of African-American players were all over the place, all over the field at that time. They don't have that anymore. Those parks are closed down. Those parks are soccer fields. They're not baseball fields anymore. So it's been a change of what the inner city of baseball is like. And I think the younger African-American kids kind of reject baseball because they don't market it like they do basketball. Basketball markets their players. They market their jersey, they market their tennis shoes, and that's what kids get attracted to. I mean, of course, my son Jordan's with me. I mean, he grew up playing basketball. He was a good baseball player. I wish he'd have picked up the bat and kept going. But the marketing of basketball was so attractive, and it just draws players to that. So you have to make the game attractive to really draw players to it. When you look at baseball, baseball is more. It has a great balance with the Latino players because of the academies and all that they do in the country to develop them. And that's kind of what you have to do for inner city kids if you really want them to play baseball. Because if not, they're going to pick up a basketball and a football, and they're going to go the other way.
Abby?
Hi, good afternoon, Darryl. Joel, Latino
All right.
Sports. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, thank you.
Awesome. What does Black legacy in baseball mean to you? Not just on a level where you are as an athlete, but as a man, as a father, as a role model. What does it mean to you?
Well, it means everything, as far as being, a black player and being able to achieve and be successful at the major league level and experience life. I think that was the most important thing, more than my baseball career. I got to experience life in such a different way in a higher level, and to be able to walk away from the game and go away and be able to grow and not quit. I learned through baseball. It taught me through baseball, you don't give up, you don't quit. It's easy to give up, it's easy to quit because of what's being said and what's in front of you, and it's how you deal with it. And in life, it's just in life from where a lot of us come from. We come from a place where most people don't know. We don't have a lot of father figures, so all the coaches that you endure throughout your life of playing sports mostly become father figures for you. And that's what this game gives to you. That's what it gave to me. It gave me great coaches who were like fathers, from managers, Jim Fry, Davey Johnson, guys that I played under, Joe Torre. All of them have played a great role in my life to make me the man I am today. When I think about it, Bill Robinson, when I look at all these people, Bobby Valentine, Buddy, all these people had a great impact on me. And it was a very positive impact because they were all positive people that played a part of my life. And I think that's why, I sit here today with so many memories of them, because I know what they gave to me. They gave to me more than just being a baseball player and running out on the field. They gave the manhood to what it's like to be a man, and I got that from each one of them in my time of playing baseball. So it gives you more than you can ever imagine. It's not just what the game gives you and what, the fans give you, but it's the people that you are connected to is what they give you. Turns out to be more special than you can ever imagine. You don't know that at the time, but after it's all over with and you've done with it and dealt with it, you realize how important that really was in your life. Where I stand today, I realize how important all these guys have played a part of what my life is today.
Abby.
Growing up in LA, what was Jackie Robinson's influence and what did you know about his legacy, and has it changed at all since then?
No, I think it's highly respected of Jackie Robinson and setting the table. I don't know if the players really know, especially the players of color, really know that. I don't know if they recognize, they recognize who he is, but do they really know what all he had to endure? He endured everything. He took everything, all the burdens for all of us to be able to put on a uniform. And, that's such a different standard, for someone that had to do that. He did it for all of us. And when you recognize that, then you might recognize who you are as a player and as a person. Because Jackie wasn't just a player. Jackie was a man of true character. When you read about him and you learn about him, you learn that his character was probably just as great as his game as a player. And that says a lot when you have to endure so much and have to take so much criticism and hatred towards you, but still keep the same character. So that right there tells you how special, of a person that he is, and was at the time. I say he is because his legacy is living on. It's a great legacy for what he stood for and how he stood up for others.
I don't know if you followed the controversy at all with the government taking his bio down and then putting it back up. Have you followed it, and just what are your thoughts on that?
No, I haven't. I haven't, and shame on them if they do that. Shame on them because of a person that had to fight so hard. And wasn't just fighting for himself. He was fighting for any player of color that puts on a uniform. From black players to Latin players. No one puts on a uniform of color if it had not been for him, and the door was open for him to do that. So it would be a shame if they can't keep that right, keep it the way it should be, because it represents something more than just you can probably ever imagine. And the average person probably couldn't have done what he had done at that particular time. I know I couldn't. If anybody said they could, they're telling your story because they wasn't put in that position to do it. So it's only when you put in that position, and he was, and he did it.
Very good. Darryl, thank you very much for your poignant comments.
All right, thank you. Thank you, guys.